Here's the site that we'll be installing the antenna, and I'm going to dig the hole for the base right by the white flag. So I have a nice open field here for the radials, for the most part anyway. But in this direction I have a bunch of apple trees that are going to be a bit of a nuisance, but this is about the best site that I have to work with. So we plan on putting a radial field out here, typically about 65 feet long per radial. There will be a couple that will be shorter, but for the most part there won't be a terribly large number of compromises. So we'll have to get our hands on the shovel and get busy. Here's the site now that the hole has been dug, and I hope, I know I'm not the only one with clay in their backyard, but I hope that if you take on this project that you end up with a better soil to dig in than I did. It was a lot of work. And I've got a few sacks of pre-mixed saccharine in a small mixer. A lot of apples. Our apple trees are dropping apples. You have to really watch out when you walk under them so you don't get hit on the head like Isaac Newton did. And a bug. There we are. Okay, we'll now add the gravel to the bottom of the hole and suspend the pipe and get ready to mix the concrete. Okay, now I've put the mast in the hole, and I simply took a piece of plywood and a U-bolt and attached, let me get out of the shadow here, and attached the, there we go, the mast to the 2x4, so that will level it with the top of the soil. Got some gravel, I'll put a little more in there. And then we also welded some rebar. You can see the U-bolt, nothing fancy there. Some rebar that will help hold all the cement together and also kind of helps position everything in the hole. So the trick now will just be to mix the cement and get underway. So that will be next. Okay, so here's the finished mast installation, where we have the concrete poured, the schedule 80 2.5 inch diameter pipe, and the radial plate, which is here at the base of the mast. There's a saddle clamp, which I've applied some anti-seize compound on the threads. I'll tighten that up with about 1 inch of clearance on the bottom and then start attaching the radials. We've taken the pivot base assembly out of the shop now. I've added the anti-seize compound to all of the stainless steel hardware and mounted, snugged everything up, and then mounted with a couple of saddle clamps the pivot assembly to the mast. I'll be adding the radials to the radial plate here first before I go any further, but I added this base assembly so that I could check to see how everything would fit as far as the current choke, the radial plate, and the base assembly, and it seems there's going to be plenty of room. Okay, the base of course will pivot to my right as you look at this, and fairly straightforward procedure so far. So far I've only got the 3-inch tube, which is about 6 feet in length. Well, we're out here at the site once again, and I'm starting to install the radials. I have all the hardware on the vertical in place, and all of the nuts and bolts are installed on the radial plate. I've put several of them in already and am continuing the process as we work around the perimeter. So the layout is fairly simple. We're putting in 60 radials, and at 65 feet you figure the circumference of the circle, divide that by 60, and that would be the distance between the ends of the radials at the end of the circle. So I've done that. You'll be able to see at the end here I've got a screwdriver. This was a suggestion from a friend of mine, and that's at the end of the radial line, and a string is attached with a knot on the end so that as I run the next radial out I'll be able to position it at the end of the string. And I just put another eyelet at the end of the radial line and put a nail through that eyelet just to hold it in place. So that will be the process, just a series of lines as we bolt them on to the base plate, and we'll run them out here and make the circle around. Okay, here we'll put another radial on the system. Fairly straightforward process. We have the screws all set up, and the radial itself goes between the split ring washer and the nuts. So we'll place that in place, hand tighten it down. Here we go. This one is going to fight me. Here we go. And tighten it down. Okay, now we'll grab the wire and walk it out to the spot and set it in place with a nail. So we'll just be repeating that process about 60 times before we're done, and then we'll have a radial field all set to go. Alright, we're going to assemble the winch next. The instructions are supplied with the winch, which is an optional accessory with this antenna. The instructions are fairly straightforward once again. So we open up to the nicely illustrated directions, and the first thing they have us do is to mount the handle, which is threaded. So we'll just go ahead and spin that down on the shaft. To lock the handle in place, there's a spring, a small spring, and a small nut that can be threaded on. And then a 3/8" wrench is tightened to the end of the threads. I'll just give it a couple of turns here. Okay, that's about all it takes. And so now the handle's been secured, and the next thing would be to add the strap. And the strap is let's see, there we go, is secured by using this nut or bolt that's supplied by DX Engineering. Once again, there's a bolt, 2 washers, and a nylock or a cap nut. So we'll take the strap, the strap has a sewn end, and we simply will place the bolt, first of all the washer, and the bolt goes through the webbing, another washer, and the cap nut. Okay, I'll secure that momentarily, but just for purposes here of illustration, We can then thread the webbing onto the drum. Okay, that's about the end of it. Next, we have some hardware, stainless hardware, again, that will attach on these holes, through these holes on the bottom. And again, there are nylock or these cap nuts that hold it in place. All three of those are added, and there are holes on the plate out on the mast of the antenna that these will pass through, and we can then secure the winch to that plate on top of the antenna. That's about it for the winch assembly, with the exception of mounting it on the mast plate. Alright, all of the radials, with the exception of 5, have been installed, and I'm leaving the 5 because I have an issue with some apples and bees behind me here, so the last 5 are going to be added when later on today, when the bee activity is a little less. They're really going after the apples right now. So as you can see, the winch has been added. I bolted the winch in place, and now I'll go over and add hook the winch hook onto the eyelet. So now the hook is in place. There are 4 bolts on the upper support of the mast, and these 4 bolts will be removed. There's 2 on the left side, 2 on the right side, and those are released, are removed in order to release the antenna so that it can pivot on the hinge, which is down here on the bottom of the mast and antenna support. Okay, I've removed those 4 bolts. You can see, let me zoom in here.